Hello everyone.
Hi there.
Thank you so much. We've said that on previous occasions as well, but once again, thank you so much for the feedback, for the conversation that's not only taking place between the two of us, but that is taking place within the wider community. Questions coming through after each conversation that's been recorded and so on. It makes this so alive, and it makes us part of a wider community, and the wider community also communicating with each other actually. It may be in an indirect way, but also talking about issues that are important for the community at large. And we received a very interesting question. There's a lot of interesting questions that we've written down, and we try to work through them as we go along. But we've received this very important and interesting question where this person asks, how do I start on the contemplative journey? Often we talk about contemplative spirituality. That is the topic that we come back to time and time again, because that is the basis from which we have these conversations. That's our spirituality. It's the contemplative spirituality. So we touch on different aspects of that. It's almost like a diamond with different sides and facets, and we look at different angles at that. So we touch on this, and this person says, I love what I hear and what comes to the fore. How do I start on such a journey, the contemplative journey? And we want to, if at all possible, to answer that question today.
Well, as we were talking about it prior to the chat, is that once you feel that you want to live contemplatively, you are actually already on the journey.
Yeah.
The fact that you are aware of a spirituality that's more contemplative, and that you have been searching. I think for me it starts way before you even know that there's something called contemplative spirituality. In that there's a void, a feeling, a longing for more, a discontent, and so it starts with a search, and an openness to what might be this thing that I'm missing in my life.
And it often flows out of situations of deep suffering, of deep love. In other words, situations where old answers don't satisfy anymore. And it's almost like we break through something and we want to go deeper.
And often I also think it comes at a stage in our lives when things just doesn't work anymore. You don't feel that, you feel that there must be more to life. There must be, this can't be all that that there is to life. So it's very closely linked, I think, to a search and a looking for, and then it leads you to what it is that you need to have filled. And I think that's a wonderful part of how God is busy in that process, is that God meets you with that longing, and that and I think the intention of openness and of looking out for where God is in this is also a very important part of the journey. And then to notice what speaks to you, which writers, which quotes, which images, and to really follow on those, follow through on those.
It's almost a trail of crumbs.
Yes.
And you follow it, and
Yeah.
before you know it, you immersed in contemplative spirituality. But the mere fact that you ask this question
Yeah.
says that you're already on this journey.
Yeah.
And it's not a matter, that's the beauty. It's a spirituality soaked in the love of God, and how God is very gently busy with us. And we don't have to do things prior before entering into contemplative spirituality. Kabir has a wonderful quote where he says, wherever you are is the entry point. It doesn't matter where you are, that is the entry point where God comes in. So wherever you are on this journey, there's this longing to go deeper. Within the Ignatian spirituality, they talk of the marges, the more. If there's this longing for more, to know God deeper, more intimately, and then how God sends us also to ourselves and saying, in order to get to know me more intimately and deeper, you have to get to know yourself. The two are so interlinked, and that is also part of contemplative spirituality. Maybe before we look at certain practices in contemplative spirituality, very briefly, some of the characteristics or traits or elements of contemplative spirituality. There is a deep sense of God in all things. Not a distinction of sacred and profane. Everything is soaked with the love and the presence of God. A beautiful Celtic prayer says, whenever I
Fix a door. What? Fix a door.
yeah. When I prepare a meal or fix a door, I encounter Christ of cup and saw. Whether I'm preparing a meal, peeling potatoes, pouring water on rice, or putting hinges on a door, I'm encountering Christ of cup and saw. It's such a beautiful image for me, that. So it's that awareness of the presence of God in everything. Also in my real difficult moments and situations, and in my flawedness. Because there's an honest look at my own faults, and not trying to fix them, but to see how God is busy with that. So the primal focus is not to fix that, but to experience God in it.
So definitely there are no hurdles to cross to begin a contemplative life. There's no things that you need to get right.
And you don't have to jump through certain hoops to be on this journey, to get this right so that this can begin. So it's that awareness. It's a non-dual lifestyle. The whole issue of a separateness, me standing here over against you, over against the created world, over against people who are different from me, but a real openness to all of that.
And the unity of everything, the oneness.
Yeah, and it plays into God in all things. So even in a person that I don't like, I can find God in such a person, which is a challenge.
What is that beautiful quote? Who said it?
Richard Rohr. When I can see God in places where I don't want to see God, then I see with eyes not my own.
Yeah. So it's a very big openness to the sacred in everyday life.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's also about a slower pace. Not as if what is first, the chicken or the egg? By slowing down, we become more sensitive. We become more attentive. We live more aware. We live with a deeper awareness and a mindful life. So by slowing the pace, that happens. But by living this, it almost slows us down automatically because you become attentive to the slow processes of God, the rhythms of nature, how things open up, also in yourself with the processes.
And I think it doesn't mean that you don't have a busy life.
No.
Or that things doesn't need to happen quickly. I often think when I walk back from the studio to come and have lunch in the house, my mind is busy with what next, what needs to be done, when's the next load shedding period. And when I just come into the moment and see the swallows flying around me, catching flies, and it's in that moment, everything goes into slow motion almost. Everything sort of, it's as if the fever comes down. Coming out of that busyness in my head, that self-centeredness of my life, my problems, my situation, and into the moment, which is all we have, and it's a coming back to what is real.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of living that is just that intention of being more aware, of living in the moment.
Yeah.
And it's not so much that we're getting it right, it's just coming back to that all the time.
Really be present in the present moment.
Yes.
Not moving to the
whatever that
next.
moment may be, it might be an extremely difficult moment.
Yes.
But you are in that moment.
So the main focus is not so much achieving a goal, even a goal of bettering myself or improving myself, but to be where I am out of this knowledge and awareness that is where God is busy with me.
And that it's enough.
And that's enough.
Yeah. We were talking in the Afrikaans conversation about even reading the Bible at a much slower pace.
Yeah.
Often we think, this year I'm going to read the Bible from Genesis to Revelations in the 1 year. And there's nothing wrong with a goal like that. But to also not have that goal-orientated focus, but to say, I feel called to just be busy with this one line, this one verse, or this one word that's become
or there's one image of God that came to the fore.
And how is this how is God showing this to me in this year? And that also brings things down. There's not this thing that I have to do every day. It takes away the, what's the word, the especially for somebody that's very responsible in doing the right things, the next thing. It takes away that stress, that I can't find the word now. It'll come to me.
And realizing, because it flows and it grows out of this experience of the deep love of God, not condemnation, not
why are we struggling today? We're in an Afrikaans mindset.
but being chastised for doing things wrong, and we have to please God. So for instance, reading the Bible, it will please God if I read all four Gospels this year. God will be really chuffed with me. God will like it, but if I don't do it, He will like me just the same.
Yeah.
I don't have to perform. I don't have to do certain things for God to love me. One has to be very, very attentive as to how our image of God centers around conditional love. If I do this, then God will.
But I think we're going off the track a little bit.
Yes.
I think in terms of living contemplatively. So this speaks to you. You find your spiritual home in this spirituality, and you want to work with it. You want it to be part of your life. How do you go about it?
I think practices, because one has to say that contemplative spirituality is countercultural and it's counterintuitive. The culture isn't going to be helpful in a meaningful way. Culture is purpose-driven.
Especially the Western culture.
The Western culture. Achieving things, ticking boxes off, and producing. And also, it plays into our ego structure and what our ego loves. So contemplative spirituality is countercultural and counterintuitive, and what helps us in this process that can be challenging and a lonely journey in a lot of ways is practices. A formal practice, a disciplined practice, not rigid but disciplined, of
almost a habit.
A habit of daily meditation, of contemplative prayer, of stillness, of a period of stillness, so that all this noise quiets down. So a practice, stillness or silence, exposure to nature, being aware of the wider reality in which I live and where God is present, and living mindfully and with awareness.
And with the knowledge that God is showing Himself in everything.
Yeah.
Through everything, also through us.
Yeah.
And to be aware of the sacredness. So it's that living with awareness.
Yeah.
And sharpening that I almost want to say that sense.
And flowing out of that, because we use the image in the Afrikaans conversation of, it's almost like breadcrumbs.
Like a trail that you follow. Yeah.
And it will open up, because part of this, it's not navel gazing. It's not only being busy here, but it's also being involved and active in the world around us, but in a different way, of things opening up. And we follow the crumb trail and we say, this needs to be done, and I have to attend to this, and this needs to be addressed. So it's actually...
And it's very unique.
Yes.
So everybody's crumb trail will look different.
Yes.
And will lead you to different places.
Yeah.
I think it will also help if you have a community.
Yes,
or
I wanted to say
at
that.
At least a friend or two that is on the journey.
Yeah.
But our experience has been that they do come along.
Yes.
When you're on the journey, they do come along, whether they are physical people in your life or whether it is people, writers or friends that you make over the internet, podcasts. But they do. It's almost like a tribe.
Yes.
We always talk of the tribe,
yeah.
And it's amazing how these things just become part of your life and opens up all the time. It's really quite an adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is really a very rich subject, and we touched only the surface actually of that, answered the question in broad strokes. How do you start a contemplative journey? The mere question is an indication that you're already on it. And then bringing in these practices that we've mentioned, be on the lookout for community in whatever form it comes or it announces itself, and be open for surprises and adventure and God smiling and winking at you. There's a playfulness of God that comes to the fore as well. If there are any questions around certain aspects of this, please feel free to send them to us. But thank you very much that you are part of this conversation.
Have a good week, everybody.
Keep well. Bye-bye.
Bye.